The dynamic between Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White is very interesting because clearly it's a relationship with a basis of respect. I mean, when Stephanie White was hired, Clark was thrilled, super excited. And coach said all the right things about coming in and coaching the Fever and coaching Caitlin Clark. Then fairly early in the season, I would say there was a bit of a philosophical divide, but it never got to be completely worked out, right? And it wasn't as if they were at odds, but I noticed when they would talk about things, and for instance, when Caitlin Clark had come back from one of her injuries.
Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White were supposed to become one of the most electric duos the WNBA had ever witnessed. A generational rookie paired with a seasoned, battle-tested coach ready to build an entire franchise around her. But before their partnership could even settle, the fractures began to form. What started as pure excitement slowly transformed into one of the most intriguing, misunderstood, and tension-layered relationships in the league. From the outside, everything looked ideal. Clark was ecstatic when White was announced as head coach. White praised Clark publicly. Fans believed the Fever had finally built a foundation worth trusting. But then, on national television, Caitlin Clark uttered a single brutally honest sentence that shattered the illusion and revealed a philosophical divide no one saw coming. After returning from injury, Clark repeated some of White's coaching points, setting stronger screens, moving off the ball, adjusting her role. But beneath that calm delivery was a truth that would soon erupt across the sports world.
And it wasn't as if they were at odds, but I noticed when they would talk about things, and for instance, when Caitlin Clark had come back from one of her injuries and Ari McDonald was there and they were asking about playing together, and Clark referenced some of the talking points Stephanie White has made, like being a better screener, about playing off ball, but then she, reiterated that she's at the best with the ball in her hands. And that reminded me of when I was there for the Liberty game, the first Liberty game that Clark got hurt in, not the one that she came back and exploded in. And before that game, there was a little bit of a hint of,
When Stephanie White arrived, the Indiana Fever acted as if they had just secured the final piece of a long-missing puzzle. Clark lit up during interviews, praising the hire. Fans felt the team had finally aligned its leadership with its superstar's future. White spoke about igniting a new era, rebuilding with intention, and fully supporting Clark as the cornerstone of the organization. On day one, it seemed like a flawless fit, a respected coach with authority teaming up with a rookie phenom ready to redefine the league. The chemistry felt instant. The energy felt right. For the first time in years, the Fever looked like a franchise with direction. But it didn't take long, just a few weeks, for faint cracks to surface. Not fights, not drama, just small signs that White and Clark weren't fully in sync on the future of the Fever or how Clark should be utilized. Casual viewers didn't see it, but those paying attention sensed the early friction. The foundation was promising, yet underneath the surface, something much more complicated was forming.
Fans took that and turned it into like Stephanie White will destroy Caitlin Clark and all that. We never got a chance to see them completely gel. When Clark had come back, even when she was playing hobbled before the groin injury that ultimately ended her season when the ankle injury compounded it, the Fever were rolling. They had won a couple of games in a row there, but not only just did they win them, they looked like a machine. And that was with Clark struggling to shoot because she was obviously hobbled with injuries. But then when the Fever go on and they win without Caitlin Clark, and clearly Stephanie White proves she's a hell of a coach, and the rest of the team steps up,
The first real shift arrived quietly, barely noticeable unless you were in the locker room or watching the details of each possession. White had a very specific vision for the Fever. More motion, more off-ball activity, better spacing, more structure. Meanwhile, Clark came into the league with a style built on control, creativity, and running the entire offense through her hands. These weren't minor preferences. They were two completely different basketball philosophies headed straight for a collision. Clark acknowledged White's adjustments respectfully in press conferences, better screens, sharper cuts, embracing off-ball movement. But her instincts painted a different picture. She was born to initiate, to orchestrate, to dominate the rhythm of a game. Her natural playmaking impulse clashed almost immediately with White's system. Not out of ego, not out of conflict, but because pairing a generational offensive force with a coach determined to rebuild structure was destined to create growing pains.
And they win without Caitlin Clark, and clearly Stephanie White proves she's a hell of a coach, and the rest of the team steps up. Clark celebrated in that moment. And I know for a fact that they have a good relationship, right? So it's just intriguing because they never got a chance to fully flesh out their on-court relationship. They have a great off-court relationship, and so much has been made of their relationship since without us having a chance to actually see the substance. And then when Stephanie White says anything, it gets run with, like when she had talked about how important Kelsey Mitchell was to the team. I don't even forget that.
Everything shifted the moment Caitlin Clark stepped in front of the cameras after returning from injury. She was calm, composed, polite, until one sentence changed everything. Reporters asked about her role, teamwork, and off-ball responsibilities. Clark began with the usual respectful nods to White's strategy, but then her tone sharpened, her expression focused, and she delivered the line that detonated across the sports world. I'm at my best with the ball in my hands. No softening, no hesitation, no ambiguity. It was honest, it was bold, and it directly contradicted the system White was trying to implement. From that moment forward, the atmosphere changed. Clark wasn't just sharing an opinion. She was affirming her identity, and the entire WNBA felt the shockwave.
And then when Stephanie White says anything, it gets run with, like when she had talked about how important Kelsey Mitchell was to the team. I don't even forget the exact comments, but it was the most innocent comment ever, especially when they're trying to re-sign Kelsey Mitchell in free agency. But it's like, well, she didn't say Caitlin Clark was the be-all, end-all of everything all the time, and therefore she, hates her. But regardless, Stephanie White was on with Sue Bird on her Bird's Eye View podcast and specifically talked about Caitlin Clark and said some things that I think fans will like to hear.
The instant Clark sentence aired, chaos erupted. What had been a subtle philosophical difference instantly transformed into a national storyline. Fan media outlets and social platforms dissected every moment of the season, every substitution, every facial expression, every interaction, searching for proof of a hidden feud. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Headlines amplified the tension. Clipped videos exaggerated the split. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't rookie star adapting to a new system. It was coach versus player, control versus freedom, old school versus new era. Even the smallest remarks from White, praising a teammate, discussing movement, emphasizing structure, were twisted into claims that she didn't trust Clark or wasn't building the offense around her. A mild basketball disagreement had evolved into a full-blown media monster. Clark and White weren't controlling the story anymore. The story was controlling them.
Especially coming from her.
How important was it to forge that relationship with her for all the reasons?
I mean, really important. I'd had just a little bit of a relationship with Caitlin from calling her games a number of times, when she was in college, but it was very important. Look, she's obviously the centerpiece of everything that we do. And most importantly for me was just connecting and building trust. I don't know how she does what she does and handles it so gracefully. I'm not sure, myself as a
storm intensified, Stephanie White finally addressed the situation directly, calm, firm, and unfiltered. On Sue Bird's Bird's Eye View podcast, she erased every exaggerated rumor. She emphasized that her relationship with Clark was strong, built on communication, trust, and a shared competitive fire. But then she dropped a statement that instantly reframed everything. I'm a firm believer you have to coach and challenge your best players. No apology, no hesitation. She was making it clear superstars aren't exempt from structure or accountability. She also highlighted their shared psycho-level competitiveness, establishing that she wasn't intimidated by Clark's talent. She was determined to elevate it. It was the first time the public heard White's full perspective, and it shifted the entire narrative.
But I'm going to be honest, and I think that I certainly appreciate that about her. And I'm also the same kind of psycho that she is in terms of competitiveness. Now it comes out in different ways. But we both just really want to win, and we want to set ourselves and our teammates up for success. And so it was really important for me, right away with her.
So a few important things I think that were said there. Number one was she's the centerpiece of everything that we do. So that will be received really well out there amongst CCFC. And it's right? Everybody knows that, both on the basketball court and from the...
The real reason this partnership created so much intensity is simple. Clark and White are built from the same fire. Clark has a fierce, instinct-driven belief in her own game, the same mentality that made her a college icon, the same swagger behind her deep threes and highlight passes. She trusts her vision above everything. White has that exact same competitive wiring, direct, assertive, obsessed with winning, and unwilling to compromise just because a player is talented. Their philosophies didn't clash because of ego. They clashed because both wanted to win their way. Clark equals controlled chaos, creativity, offensive command. White equals structure, balance, disciplined execution. Two brilliant minds pushing each other simultaneously, sometimes aligned, sometimes opposite. Their conflict wasn't destructive, it was the kind of friction that sharpens great teams. Their partnership wasn't broken. It was simply unfinished.
For a little bit because she had a little bit of that Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant DNA in her. And that's a great combination. So it's exciting to see how it goes going forward because they didn't have a chance. They like each other. They trust each other. They're both great at what they do. So it's hard to see it not working out. And Caitlin, seeing what the team was able to do without her, that's got to be helpful in a certain sense to know what they're capable of. And then them knowing what they're capable of without her, and then knowing what she is capable of.
Then came the twist no one saw coming. While Clark battled injuries and pushed through pain, the Fever suddenly started winning, either without her or with her limited. The ball moved differently. The system clicked. White proved she could coach at a high level even without her star guard controlling everything. Clark didn't sulk. She boosted teammates online, cheered from the sidelines, supported every win. But the public didn't see unity, they saw fuel. If the Fever can win without Clark, does that prove White's system works? If Clark is the franchise star, why did the team look smoother without her? These questions exploded online, intensifying every narrative. Wins without her became debates. Losses with her became ammunition. The truth was simple. Clark and White never got enough time to build real on-court chemistry. Clark dealt with ankle and groin injuries, constant physical targeting, and the pressure of reshaping a franchise. White juggled rotations, expectations, media chaos, and the weight of developing a rookie star. They had flashes of brilliance, but flashes weren't enough. Their entire partnership so far has been fragments, not a full picture. And that incomplete story is exactly why their future feels so unpredictable, so tense, and so fascinating. So now the biggest question in the WNBA remains. Can Clark's ball-dominant genius and White's disciplined structure merge into a championship formula? Or are they destined to collide until one identity wins out? The Fever have proven they can win without Clark. Clark has proven she transforms teams instantly. Their relationship off the court is strong, but their on-court partnership is still unwritten. What makes their future thrilling isn't the drama, it's the potential. Because if they ever lock into perfect sync, blending Clark's instinctive brilliance with White's structural discipline, the Fever won't just be good, they'll be terrifying.